That Sober Guy podcast contains adult content, merciless truth, and emotional nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
I'm Shane Ramey. You're listening to That Sober Guy podcast, and we help people stay sober. If it's your first time listening, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here today. Shout out to Humans Music for bringing us in today. I always appreciate those guys. If you're looking for ways to quit drinking, you can go over to thatsoberguy.com. Got lots of resources there. I'd love for you to join our free online men's community, the Victory Circle, and connect with dudes all over the country, staying free from alcohol, elevating their businesses, their personal lives, their families, being better fathers, husbands, all that good stuff. Be sure to follow us on X at That Sober Guy Pod and on Instagram at That Sober Guy Podcast. And all the links from today's show will be in the show notes for you, so they're very easy for you to find. So pumped for our guest today. His name is Adam Jablin, and we've been following each other back and forth. He's doing some great work for many, many years now. Coming up, I think, on 19 years sober, which is so awesome. He's a best-selling author, certified recovery mentor, and keynote speaker. He's been featured on ESPN, Fox, many other mainstream networks. And Adam's mission and purpose is to break people free and to ignite their hero within. I love that because all of us have this hero story. And our story is something that can impact so many people out there when we learn to embrace it and own it and then share it. Adam went through his own fight with alcoholism and addiction. He's been clean since 2006. And if I did my math right, I think that's somewhere around 18, 19 years. And he went on to create the Hero Project, a high-level coaching program that's helped thousands of people break free from addiction. So good to have him on the show today, Adam. It's great to see you and to have you on Sober Guy, man. How's things?
Brother, it's a long time coming. I'm excited to be on here with you. I'm a fan of yours as well. I love the show, so I'm excited to be here.
Hey, thanks so much, man. And I gotta tell those listening out there, that's when we first hopped on today. This is the first time kind of Adam and I have met, in the digital space at least, but somewhat in person. And that's the first thing he said, man. Oh man, I love the show, man. You do such a good job. And so it's nice to get a little love, and I appreciate that, man. And I can tell the authenticity bleeding through. So, man, so where are you located, by the way? Are you down in Southern California or?
No, I'm in Boca Raton, Florida. I'm on the East Coast.
Oh, got it. You're on the East Coast. Okay, I don't know why I thought you were down in Los Angeles area. Yeah, look, Florida, man. Still never been there, but what a great spot.
Dude, come and hang. And I'm in LA all the time.
Got it. Maybe that's why, because I know you book signings and meetings and speaking events and stuff. That's probably where I've caught on social media at some point, you being down in the Southern California area. So. You just launched a book. We usually wait. We'll talk about it maybe a little at the end. But what's the title of the book again? And that just came out recently, right?
Yeah, well, we can talk about that real fast. So look, this is the book is Dion, the rock and roll philosopher, right? Conversations on life, recovery, faith, and music by Dion DiMucci and Adam Jablin. So Dion has been my mentor for 18 years. I met him when I was 12 years old. Helped me grow into the sober man I am today. He's 56 years clean and sober.
Dang.
And a rock and roll Hall of Fame legend. They have a Broadway play coming out this year called The Wanderer on his life. Paul Simon, Bishop Barron, Eric Clapton, Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan, and Stevie Van Zandt contributed to the book.
Dang.
But it's a book on mentorship, and it's a book about what we do. And it's him passing down his experience, strength, and hope, his wisdom, to me. And so one day we were at lunch after one of our we go to lunch all the time and dinners. And one day I just said to him, Dion, I really wish everybody could hear these conversations. And he lit up and he was like, why don't we start documenting some of them? So 4 years later, dude, it came out. Came out.
That's exciting, man. Great cover too. It's just clean, it's slick. Yeah, it looks really nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this, and I'm sure there's lots of them, and I'm sure there's many of them featured in the book. If you had to kind of point out 1, 2, 3 of some of the most important or impacting pieces of advice that you have received over those years of mentorship, like what would you say maybe the top couple are?
100%. So let's go. Number 1. Don't confuse love and approval, okay? If you're always seeking for people's approval, which I was, by the way, this is why it was a good lesson for me. Thinking it's love, you're going to get very, very hurt. So then it was explained to me. And we're both dads, so we both get it.
Yeah.
I will always love my 2 kids unconditionally, no matter what. No matter what, I will always love. There's no fucking way that I'm going to approve of every single thing they do.
Yeah.
But if they start confusing that, you know what I mean? That's going to send them down a really bad spiral.
Yeah.
Always seeking for people's approval, thinking it's love. So that would be number 1. Don't confuse love and approval. Number 2 was take full responsibility for your life. Full response. We hear that a lot, but like, you know, especially a lot on social media and memes and from Navy SEALs. But what he was really saying was for me to take a really, really clear inventory and understanding that I had a part in everything, even the things that I thought I had no part of. Like when my grandmother died in my arms due to bad medicine, malpractice, and a bad surgery, and she passed away and I'm like, how am I responsible for this? And he asked me point blank, because I was angry. And he was like, you once told me that you decide that God is everything or he's nothing. I'm like, yeah. He's like, maybe it was her turn to go.
Wow.
You know, and I had to like process that, because no matter how pissed off I was, no matter how angry I was, no matter how hurt I was, I couldn't bring her back.
Yeah. Yeah.
If we sued the doctor for malpractice and made whatever we want to make, does that bring her back? Yeah. So I had to really take responsibility for everything in my life, even those things that you feel like you have nothing to do with.
Yeah.
You know, that was really, really a key one. And let's see, the third thing, well, you know, he taught me this and I pass it on to my kids. But it's always when you're going to make a decision, check with your mind, your heart, your conscience, your gut, and your God. And if you can feel clear in those channels, do it.
Got it. That's good.
So your mind, your heart, your gut, and your God, whoever your version of God is. And that's how you make a decision, whatever the outcome is.
Yeah. 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 And there's a piece of, cause I keep hearing pause, right? Obviously a lot of us in recovery have heard that, you know, you pause for a moment when we have to make those decisions. Sometimes we don't know which way to go. And I love that if we take that moment, we can respond versus react, and we can really weigh out some things and, you know, trust the mind, the heart, the spirit, our God. I love that, man. And the personal responsibility, you know, and ownership, man, what a huge piece, you know. And I have, sometimes people will hit me up, and I'm sure they hit you up in the same space, and they go, hey, well, you know, my husband or my brother or my sister or whoever it might be, their loved one, you know, man, they're really struggling with this and they need to do this and that and this and that. And man, I feel for them, because I've been in the same spot too, and still am to some extent with certain people that I love and care about. But man, if somebody doesn't take personal responsibility for their own actions and they don't want to help, I can have all the resources in the world and it means absolutely nothing. You know what I mean? So that's like one of the biggest and toughest things, is for somebody to own, you know, what they've been through, what they've done, the decisions they've made. And man, it's a difficult spot to be in, but dude, that ownership and responsibility is like one of the biggest parts of, you know, finding that path to change, you know?
Yeah. And sometimes, like you just said, with your loved ones, with my loved ones, sometimes that ownership and responsibility is letting go.
Yeah, that's so true, man. Yeah.
You know, we have to own that we're actually trying to control the situation.
Yeah.
Because we think we know better. Well, maybe they have to fall on their face just like you and I did.
Yep. Which is hard
and
sometimes.
And maybe they have to fall on their face more and harder than you and I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, a little caveat to that is, when we can be in a space, unfortunately, as shitty as it is sometimes, to allow them to do that and still love them through that process, who are they going to turn to when they are ready? They're going to go, man, Shane, like you never judged me. you loved me. Now I might have to create boundaries in that space, and I'm going to, because I have my own sobriety and my own family and my own things to kind of protect. But at the same time, I'm still gonna love you, and I want to love you, and I want to be here for you when you're ready. And so sometimes that's all we can do is sit back and, as hard as it is, like, love someone right where they're at. And hopefully when they're ready, they're going to turn to, they're going to at least come to us in that space. Or if not us, somebody, they're going to trust somebody to get that help,
Yeah. And we're planting a seed because we walk the walk and we talk the talk. They have, it doesn't have to be blind faith. They can have a physical representation of what sobriety looks like in us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's huge. Yeah. Good. Okay. So, man, this is good stuff already, man. I'm digging this. Let's back up a little bit. For those out there just listening or just getting to know you, maybe give us a little synopsis, man, a little backstory on, your journey, like where you started, how you kind of went into addiction, and then how you got sober.
Yeah. So, here we go, right? Here we go.
Yeah.
Let me try to break it down like a fraction. When I grew up, I had the greatest childhood, bro. I really, really did. It was like the movie Big. I grew up in Tenafly, New Jersey. We were on our bicycles all the time. There were no cell phones. You came home when the sun was down. My friends were like a community. It was like we all knew each other. The one weird thing about me was I was the fat kid. I was the heavy kid. My dad called me El Chubbo. When my mom took me shopping, I had to shop in this little area, this little section called the Husky section.
I remember that, the Husky
section.
Section.
There was a movie in the 80s called The Goonies, and there was this kid called Chunk, and this kid would do chunk, and all my friends would have me do the chunk.
No way.
And I hated it, dude. I hated the way I looked. I hated that they weren't, dude, they were just teasing me. You know what I mean? It wasn't that bad, but there was always acknowledgement of how I looked. But it did give me this kind of class clown, enthusiastic, laugh with me instead of laughing at me personality. When I am 10, 11 years old, we moved from New Jersey to South Florida, where you could have your shirt off every day, be at the beach, be at the pool. And dude, I hated it. I would wear my shirt in the pool or shirt in the ocean. It would still suck to my fat. And one day I just had it. I had just had it. And I made a decision, I'm not going to do this anymore. I can't look like this anymore. This is like 6th grade. And my mom started buying Flex magazine and Muscle and Fitness magazine, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia Bodybuilding. It wasn't like today with macros and apps and this and that. So I had a Weider weight set. But in 4 short years, we stopped going to McDonald's every day, and she'd give me grilled chicken and an apple instead of, 6-piece chicken McNugget, soda, and fries. But in 4 short years, I went from being the fattest kid in the class to being the best built kid in the class.
Wow.
I went from kids going, yo, Adam, how many Oreos did you eat last night? To like, yo, man, how much can you bench press? The girls liked me. So everything on the outside changed. But me. I was still kind of this insecure class clown, laugh with me instead of laughing at me. But with the muscles came like coordination and a certain confidence. And I was able to play with the older kids. I can't explain it, but back then, there was just something cooler about older kids. They got the hotter girls. They had more permission. They stayed out later. They got cars faster. So I'm playing with the older kids, and I'll just never forget one day after practice, they're passing the 40s, they're passing the Coors Lights, they're passing the blunt. And dude, there was no peer pressure. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was just hanging with my boys, and they passed it, and bro, I drank it, and it fixed something inside of me I did not know was broken. It fixed it. I was so disassociated. I remember like looking at my body being like, whoa, like, and confidence came out. And I didn't become cocky or arrogant or a jerk. I just became like the man, like Ferris Bueller. Like I point at it, it happens. Do you know what I mean? Instant manifestation. Like I was just walking on water. And I dedicated my life to that feeling. You know, I was the first kid in my high school with a fake driver's license from Iowa. It was terrible, but it worked. I went to Arizona State University because Playboy and Penthouse magazine said it was the #1 party school in the country, which it was. And I dominated there. And it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And that's where I kind of tried other things, you know, from cocaine to ecstasy to peyote to mushrooms to acid, you know, dibbled and dabbled and this and that. And then from there, I had to go work for my family business. There was no like, what do you want to do when you grow up? What do you want to be? And I had to go in and be the first one there and last one to leave and work hard, play hard. And I had to live up to my dad's shadow, which was huge. And I did not know what I had. I'm sure you may be the same way. I didn't know what we were. And the way I reward myself is with drinking. And I wasn't doing the playful drugs anymore, but because I was now at work. So those playful drugs, like I was talking about, like the cocaine and the ecstasy, maybe some weekends, you know what I mean? But that started becoming like prescription pills, like Xanax to calm down. I used to do Xanax and an ephedrine, which would get you all wired up with some coffee. It would give you like almost this heroin feeling, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Ambien to sleep, Oxycontin and Darvocet and Percocet so I don't feel my injuries. I was high as a kite. And about 8 years of that, and the body just turned. And I went from something that was a bad habit to an unhealthy dependency, like I'm dependent upon this stuff, to a full-out alcoholic and addict. And I don't know where I crossed the line, but when I crossed, there was no looking back.
Wow, man. It's when you describe that first kind of moment, you know, because we talk a lot about escapism, like with drinking, with addiction, whatever it is, right? It's a moment to escape. And even after, I don't know, 11, 12 years, whatever I'm at right now, time-wise, like there are days when I just wish I could escape still, you know, and I don't have to feel. And someone on X the other day was saying something. She said, it just kind of popped on my feed. You know, she was upset because someone had said to her that she was wrong basically for having these thoughts of wanting to drink after 18 years of sobriety or 17 years or whatever. And I'm like, man, that's like not right. Like you still have these thoughts even after, whether it's a week or whether it's 18 years, like those are pretty normal thoughts. So like, as human beings, we have this part of us that wants to escape this reality. And so for you to experience that first time, and then you're constantly chasing that over those years, I think, even if we don't realize it, you know, any thoughts on just like the escapism part of addiction and how that kind of can affect people? Oh, I think I lost you. Oh, shoot. Let's see. Did I lose you, Adam? I think I lost Adam there for a minute. Oh, shoot. Let's see here. Let's see. All right, there we go. I lost you there for a moment. That was strange, man.
That was weird.
Yeah, that was so weird. Okay, I don't know where it cut out. All right,
so we were in the X story, and she was wrong.
Okay, that's gotcha. Okay, so I kind of went on for a minute, and it's fine. I really wanted to dive into the thoughts. Like, what are your thoughts on escapism? Like, what are your thoughts on addiction being used as in a way to escape, and whether it's that very first time that we feel it. Like I remember when I felt it, I took a couple shots of Jose Cuervo tequila in my dad's garage. I was like 15 and I just remember feeling so warm and like everything just floated away. And I felt great, for that time, at least I thought. And then, as we get older, obviously stuff progresses and it can turn into something completely different. But that art of escapism, man, such a big part of it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
I agree with it 100% because what I learned in rehab, and then what I continue to learn every single day in my sobriety, was there were a lot of things in my past, a lot of them, a lot of old ideas, a lot of old memories, a lot of old traumas, um, that I never dealt with. I never dealt with. And, trust me, I didn't think that stuff was in there. And I certainly didn't think that was the reason I drank. I drank because I like to have fucking fun. I do this because there's no way back then that you could actually make me believe that that's why I did it. No way. Now you're talking to me now, looking back, of course it was the reason. Of course. And look, I sometimes need to escape today. Sometimes exercise is a form of escaping. Sometimes meditation is a form of escaping. Sometimes an extra 12 step is a form of escaping. But at least these forms of escape are healthy and spiritual in nature and are allowing me to connect to something real rather than killing myself. But you don't want to live in here, bro. You do not want to live in my mind.
It's the worst.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you. I think that alcoholism, addiction, and escapism are first cousins.
Yeah. So okay, so you're kind of full blown in this cycle of addiction. Like where does it go from there? Like where does it reach its peak, and then how do you kind of figure out like, wow, this isn't really working, and you start to realize that personal responsibility piece and take some action?
Oh, I can't even take the full credit for that, my man. I can't. I was going to take this thing till it ended, till my life ended. I got intervened. Yeah. So at the end, my body couldn't even break down food, but I'm vain. So I was living on bodybuilding supplements like protein shakes, pre-workout for caffeine, protein bars, drinking like a fish. And popping so many pharmaceutical pills a day. It was, if I said the amounts, people wouldn't believe me. And I also don't like saying the amounts because I don't want people to believe that their body can break down what my body was able to metabolize.
So you almost couldn't eat, in a sense. Like just food was probably like counterproductive with all of those chemicals and substances going in. That makes sense with the protein shake.
Bro, it made me so sick when I ate. I can't even explain it.
That's brutal.
I can't even explain it. It would take me what most people would break down in their stomach, in their metabolism in an hour, would take me 2 days.
Dang. Are you still working out at this point? Are you still fit?
Oh, yeah.
Fit? And so you're kind of trying to create the image that everything's cool. I'm going hard, I'm working out, but at the same time, I'm super addicted.
That was my mask. If I could look good, look the part, be charismatic, be the first one at work, last one to leave, make this, then like, who are you to tell me what I'm doing is bad? I mean, honestly, brother, I'm letting you know the truth. Did I know that I had a problem? I knew something was wrong. Did I think I was an alcoholic and an addict? No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. An alcoholic is a bum in Manhattan that hasn't showered in 3 years, that has a beard this long, with a paper bag and a booze in it, petting a cat that's not there and mumbling to himself. That was my definition. That's the
classic picture, dude, right there. No
right.
doubt. Yeah.
I don't match that definition. An addict was, let's say, for anybody in our generation, Pookie in New Jack City, Chris Rock, that's like a crack rocks, living in the ghetto, all drawn out, lost pigmentation in his skin, smoking crack or shooting heroin. And like, that was not, I don't match those two definitions.
Yeah.
So I thought I was kind of like a rock star, work hard, play. I had no idea about the disease of addiction. I had no idea about the spiritual component, but I was dying. And I wasn't sleeping. My body was backfiring on me. I was extremely foggy from all the pharmaceuticals. I mean, I was writing notes to myself down about where I left things, what I said.
Just so you could remember the next day.
Just so I could remember. So I could remember. Yeah. I would get so foggy too that I would forget, literally, I don't know if you've ever been there, but I would forget if I took my dose or not. Like I would go take a couple of whatever I needed, and then like 5 minutes later, actually forget, like, did I take that? And double up.
Oh man. Crazy.
You know what I mean? Like I was losing it. And one day my former wife and I, we had a child. I thought when I had a baby, bro, I thought that this gorgeous baby girl was going to be my motive and my inspiration to change all of my ways. I really did. And I fell in love with her the second she was born. I fell in love. But it wasn't what my imagination told me. It wasn't Disney World and cotton candy and puppies and sunshine and rainbows and it was like baby monitors and baby formula and sleepless nights. And it was more responsibility than even running the family business. And now I feel like there's more pressure, which only fuels it more. It only fueled it more because I've never loved anything so much in my life. But how, taking away alcohol and drugs for you and I is like taking away air for somebody that needs to breathe. You're going to give me a child and then say, and hold your breath. Like, I need to breathe. So it just fueled it. Having a child fueled my alcoholism and addiction more. One day, my daughter's about 5.5 years old, and my wife and I have my in-laws say they're going to watch the baby, and we go out for this like special day to be, just us. Yeah. And I just ruin it. We go, we have lunch. I'm ordering bottles of wine. She's like, it's 11:30, and like, what are you doing? I'm like, we deserve it. For some reason, this specific day, the wine starts mixing with the pharmaceuticals I took the night before. I probably popped 2 Ambien, a couple of Xanax, right? My eyes start rolling in back of the head. I start sweating. She's like, what's wrong with you? I start noticing that this is happening. So I start ordering Diet Cokes like crazy, caffeinating myself up and popping ephedrine, right? So now I'm all jacked up. So she's seeing like a zombie and now a wired crazy. This is all within one lunch.
Wow.
I destroy the day, and it was the beginning of the end. We get in a really bad argument, nothing physical, and I go into what people call like an alcoholic rage. I just saw black.
Yeah.
And I was like, screw you, like screw everybody. Nothing was real, dude. Like, so what is this life about? A bigger house? I'm going to get another car. I'm going to get another order from Victoria's Secrets. We'll have another kid. Politics is bullshit. Sports are rigged. Like I had no God. Everything was just dark. And I stayed like that for about 2 or 3 days.
Dang.
I would walk right by her, not talk to her, hold the baby, walk back the other way. Like, dude, I don't know if you ever experienced this, dude, but I was just. And then about 2.5 days later, it was almost like a spirit. It like lifted. And all of a sudden I was just like, what am I so angry about? Like out of like a crazy person.
Why am I pissed off right now?
Why am I pissed off? I couldn't even recall anything.
Yeah.
I go home early from work. I pass out. And during those 3 days, my wife was planning an intervention. I wake up around 1:00 in the morning in a panic. And I go to see my daughter in her room. And it's the first time I said a real prayer. And I was like, God, you have to help me. Like, I got to be okay for this little girl. Please help me with this, please. I'm still me. So my former wife hears me turn off the alarm, run. She sees me out the window, go to my car, take a couple of pills, whack it back with a beer so I could go back to sleep. And she knew that day I'm doing the right thing.
Oh, wow.
The next day, the prayer was answered, not in the way I would have liked. But the prayer was answered and I was intervened. And that's when the surrender and the journey began, bro.
Were you resistant in that? Like when, I don't know what that looks like for you, if it was like, a bunch of family members or friends, but did you feel did you feel a bit attacked, or were you so exhausted that you were just like, did you embrace it? Like, what was that like?
Dude, there were two versions of me. It's a great question. So there was the one that they're reading all the letters, and the letters sounded very similar. Something really beautiful and amazing about me. Then like, oh yeah, we know, with a memory. And like they knew everything I was. Do you remember driving over the mailbox? Do you remember driving with your nephews drunk in the car? Do you remember almost slipping down the steps with our 4-month-old daughter? Do you remember passing out on the plane to Vegas? So, oh yeah, we know. Another beautiful memory about me, which would like touch me, and will you get help? Man, I just wanted the pain to stop, to see all the pain I was causing. And I was like, yes, of course. I was like, of course. The second my interventionist lit up like a Christmas tree and was like, okay, and starts pitching me 28 days of rehab, right? That's when the other guy came out. And I was like, whoa, 28 days. I'm like, that's a month.
Yeah.
Like, who's going to be Adam Jablin for a month? Who's going to run the show? And the defensive guy came out.
Yeah.
I forgot about all their pain in like 10 seconds. We negotiated on going for 10 days to see if I have this thing. And that's what he called it. Let's see if you have this thing. As I told you, my sobriety date is July 14th, 2006. When we're negotiating this, I'm thinking, you know when a really good time to do this is? Like December or January in Florida. It's beautiful here. The weather's perfect. July, it's hot. It's miserable. It's muggy. You know what I mean? It rains every day. There's hurricanes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I'm ready to negotiate. I'm like, so when do you want to do this? And he's like, right now.
Yeah.
And bro, I couldn't understand English. I was like, this conversation went on for literally 3 or 4 minutes. I'm like, right now? He's like, right now. I was like, right now? He's like, right now. And it was like a ping pong. You should have seen my family. Like right now. And I remember my brain tends to see things like movies. I don't know if you have that. And I remember this scene with Ray Liotta in Goodfellas where he was like, okay, take me to jail. And that's literally what I said. I was like, all right.
Yeah.
And I went into rehab like it was jail. And I went in that I have 10 days to get early parole. And brother, I attacked that thing like I was going to show them that I was the most dedicated, disciplined, determined client that they've ever had in this place. And they're going to go in 3 or 4 days. There is nothing wrong with this guy. It must be his wife, the business, his family.
It wasn't you. It wasn't going to be you.
Yeah. I went in with that mentality and the whole thing backfired on me.
They could obviously see through all that, I'm sure. And then, so did you end up staying the full 28? Did you do 60, 90? Like what?
I did 28, dude. But like part of that process was everything they was teaching me was real. Everything they were teaching me was real. The first time I said I'm an alcoholic and an addict, the very first time, this 600-pound gorilla like jumped off.
Yeah,
my shoulder.
I remember that feeling, bro. So
right?
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah, huge.
My whole life made sense. Like all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, that's why I wrote my wife 30 letters that I'll stop drinking. That's why I ran over the mailbox. That's why I almost slipped down the steps. That's why I went to Arizona State University. That's why, that's why I got a DUI. Like my whole life made sense. But then within a split second of that relief was like anxiety and was like, now what? How do I watch the Jets game with my dad? How do I take clients out for dinner? Yeah. How do I see my old friends from Arizona State? Like my whole world was revolved around this drinking and drug. And the process began. I met a Catholic priest who introduced me to God, and that's a whole other story. I learned about spirituality. I learned about the disease of alcoholism, that it is a disease, that it takes 4 qualifications to be a disease. It has to be progressive, meaning over time it gets worse. It has to be chronic, meaning it's always there. It has to be primary, not secondary. So to explain that to our audience, secondary would be I drove my car into a wall and then I drank, right? Primary is I was drinking and then I drove my car. Yeah.
Got it.
And you have to be fatal. If you have all 4 qualifications, you're a medical disease. You take one of those away, you have a pretty bad disorder. So I learned that we have a disease, that this wasn't a lack of willpower. I learned that it was a spiritual disease that needed a spiritual solution. I started learning about steps, traditions, inner child work, group therapy. And along this path, I surrendered. I had a spiritual experience, which, by the way, for me came in the form of a massive panic attack. Massive.
Oh, wow.
My blood pressure was way over 180, bro. Way over. They calmed me down, and I finally accepted what I was, and a part of my ego was dying, and a part of me was being reborn. I fully surrendered, and what I thought was jail became spiritual camp, and I started loving this place. And these 35 alcoholic addict maniacs became like brothers and family.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm painting, I'm feeding ducks, I'm fishing, I'm playing basketball, I'm going to 12-step meetings, I'm meeting with my counselor, I'm journaling. Like, this place became camp. The second I left there, I attacked my recovery as if my life depended upon it, because it did. And I'm not saying what I did is healthy, bro, but I went into recovery very competitive.
Yeah.
Like, if that guy makes a meeting every day, I'm going to make it. This guy makes coffee, I'm going to make coffee. If this guy's already speaking, I'm going to speak. If this guy's bringing meetings into jails and institutions, I'm going to bring meetings in jails and institutions. If this guy's picking up that schmuck from a halfway house, then I'm going to, like, everything was a competition, but it worked. It worked.
I find that it's so interesting, because there's some similarities there, and for myself. And one thing that I did the same with is when I went into rehab, I was literally like a sponge. I was so ready. I was so engaged. I was so exhausted. And I knew that God had something more for not just my life, but my family's life. And so I wanted to, like you kind of put it, attack it. And I think that was the difference in, being able to continue on even outside of those rooms or that facility, versus maybe someone who would come in and was either there court ordered, or their family just put them there. They didn't really want to be there. They didn't possess that responsibility piece and really want it, And so I think that's so huge when we can dive in like that. And man, that's a good point. You made it competitive. Like, if we're competitive people, maybe that's it's okay to compete, and that makes industries and people and things better when we compete like that.
Bro, I had to use, like, we're very similar guys. I had to use the wiring that I had.
Exactly.
I'm not saying it's healthy, but I wasn't the Dalai Lama yet, and I wasn't there to help her.
It worked.
I was wired that way, and I had to use the wiring I had and channel it to something now healthy and spiritual and community. Eventually, that competitive thing went away, and I started understanding what recovery was really about. But I had to use the wiring that I had. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to shift real quick here, but then I want to make sure, I want to get back to what, how you've been able to, continue on for 18 years, and obviously write books and speak and just be just a great part of this community, and help a lot of other people in the process. But before we get to that, I just have one question here, because I really want to speak to a dude out there, or the dudes out there, who are, maybe they don't know that it's an issue. And when I say that, I found it really easy for myself when I was, especially in the last couple of years, even though it was really getting pretty bad, I was able to compare myself to other people and say, well, I'm not as bad as that person, or I'm not as bad as, I don't have 3 DUIs. Like, I'm not popping, 50 pills a day. Like, what about the dude out there who's saying that kind of stuff? Well, I do. I come home and I have a few beers after work and whatever. But hey, and you said it earlier, I deserve it. I felt like I deserved that. It was my reward. So, maybe to someone out there who's listening, and they know, they have that feeling. They know, whether they want to admit to it or not, that they know that this drinking habits, whatever habit it is, it's not serving them well. It's not serving their family well. They know there's something off. They don't have a DUI. They're not getting in trouble at work, but they know something's just not right. And they've thought about, man, what would it be like to not drink for 30 days? What would it be like to not have everything I do, a football game, a birthday party, a funeral, whatever it is, not have to drink through that process? Any thoughts on that, or any?
Yeah.
What's your take? Yeah,
it's a beautiful question for the audience. I know what it's like to live in that delusion and that denial. I know what it's like to say I put it down for 5 days, so I'm going to reward myself on the 5th day, Yeah. But one, we could just testify together that this life is really sweet. We're two maniacs.
Amen.
As a matter of fact, whoever's listening, we did it better and harder than you. You don't compare. Okay? You don't compare. Yeah. You know what I mean? Our stories are legendary. Having said that, if you've ever woken up in the morning and sworn to yourself that you weren't going to drink that day, and you ended up drinking anyway, and then when you decided that same day that you said, okay, I'm going to drink today, but I'm only going to have 2 or 3, but when you started, you couldn't control it, it's time to speak to us. Because you've already sworn to yourself that you weren't going to, and you ended up doing it, and then you made a deal with yourself, only 2 or 3, and you couldn't control it. That's the beginning of powerlessness.
It's good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Simple too. Like, it really is. It's not rocket science, man, but it is being able to have the ability to admit, and recognize and go, okay, it's a little scary. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but man, let's give it a shot. 'Cause you're 100% right. The life that I live today, the life that you live today, neither of them are perfect. We have our crap that we go through, ups and downs. No doubt. I have a lot of stuff, in life that is difficult sometimes, but man, it's 100 times better than the path I was going down. Good Lord. I'd be in jail. I'd be dead. I thank God for my wife. Like, she really, oh man, just so many good things, so many great connections and people. And gosh, it's just like when you said feeding the ducks, that's like so hilarious to me. Like, because it's just this simple, beautiful thing. I did that as a kid. I remember taking bread and going out to the lagoon or the pond and feeding the ducks. And it's like, it's the simplest, most awesome thing. And those are the things that help restore us and bring us back to sanity and connect us with God. And, those simple things, man, it's good stuff. So where does it go from there, man? Or if you want to comment on that, feel free. But where does it go from there? Like, what is it like today? How have you put this much time together and
Yeah, well, I'll try to just condense time. But really what happened is I fell in love with this thing. I fell in love with it. And one day at a time, 1 month at a time, and then 1 year at a time, whatever I have found, that relationship I had with God, that relationship I have with my own recovery, that relationship I have with other people, it became very infectious to other people. And within my community, I started helping them, a lot of people, get clean and sober, right? I started helping. But then I was attracting a whole different crowd: professional ball players, NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, A-list celebrities. They wanted what I had.
Yeah.
They wanted what I had. And I was just so happy to give it. And I never saw them as the name on TV. I saw them as a brother that was suffering the same way I was. You know what I mean? No matter how many accolades they got, because I'm on the phone with them hearing the real deal. And I'm like, God, these people that I used to look at, People Magazine, In Touch Magazine, all these, they suffer, they think the same exact way I think. And I'm helping them now. I loved it. I just fell in love with recovery. And I was very much like Clark Kent. Like, during the day, mild-mannered reporter, running the lace company, father. And then during my lunch hour and during it, I'm saving the world. I'm helping this person. I'm going to meet. I was like 2 different people. And when we sold the family business in 2020, I remember asking my mentor, I'm like, what am I going to do now? And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're finally going to be Adam Jablin. He's like, you're going to raise people's thoughts to a higher reality. I didn't know what coaching meant. Thank God. If I knew, I would have never come in this space. It's so competitive. I just knew that I had been doing something for, at that time, 15 years that was helping a lot of people. I had to study a little bit more personal development because I'm a God development guy. I got certifications and I got licenses, and I started a coaching program called the Hero Project, because I believe that there's a hero within all of us, right? And I believe in the hero's journey. Even within 12-step concepts, there's the hero's journey. Even within biblical stories, there's a hero's journey. Even in every movie that we love, there's the hero's journey. And therefore, you could also bring bodybuilding and health philosophies. You could talk about the road less traveled and entrepreneurship. You could talk about spiritual practices. It brings everything together. Yeah. And this is 2020 and COVID hits. And it created such a demand. And it was the right place at the right time. And then little by slowly, I've been growing the coaching business, investing in myself, learning from the best people that I can learn from, really putting my neck on the line, saying, this is worth it. This is worth it. Like, this is worth for me learning for. This is worth me understanding more. And now it's 2025. I started this really the end of 2020, mid 2020. So let's say 4.5, 5 years later, and there's something here. There's something to be proud of. But it comes with its own obstacles, like you and I were talking about. The entrepreneurial journey is not easy, and it's not fun, and it's not for the lighthearted. I can tell you that much. And really caring for people on a professional level. I'm not their therapist, and I'm not their sponsor. I'm here to get them to their goal as fast and as quick and as easy and as painless as possible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
They're Michael Jordan, and I'm Phil Jackson. I need to get them to win, And when you really put that kind of time and energy into somebody, it's tiring. It's exhausting. But bro, I wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love it. And you hit on that perfect with the COVID thing, man. What a shift in, just obviously all different aspects of life, but from a recovery perspective, I mean, I was already using Zoom, as I'm sure you were. Prior to that, there was a kind of an underground community, I guess you would say, that was still doing that. But then once COVID hit, boom, it exploded, and everybody was online. Everybody was having meetings, and it just completely opened up this whole new realm, I guess, for the recovery space. I have a Tuesday morning men's meeting that I go to at our church here. And, as much as I appreciate the online and the digital space, it serves a tremendous purpose in a lot of people's recoveries and just in business in general. But meeting in person too, I still have I love that as well. A group, a group, man, it's different. It's not, I don't want to say it's better or worse or anything either side, but it's just different. And there's something in that in-person meeting that is so powerful.
I will never knock Zoom. And the technology and the access that we have. Never. I'm not that guy.
We're doing it right now. It's amazing.
We're doing it right now. I mean? I'm not that guy. Same. But there's nothing like being with people live, in person, feel in touch, hug. Like, there's just nothing like real human connection.
Yep. Agreed, man. Agreed. Well, gosh, man, we got just a couple minutes left, man. I don't want to take too much time. Anything, first you kind of gave some good tips in that already, but someone out there listening, they're struggling, don't know where to go, don't know what to do. Any advice you might give to them for next steps or what they might do next?
Yeah, especially in this new era that you and I live in, because you and I got sober a while ago. DM you and DM me. Like, look, you don't even have to talk. You don't have to cough up all of your lies and your fears and you could just DM being like, I heard you guys. And
yeah, that's good.
I'd love, can I call you? Can I talk to you? Like, it's such a different world right now that you have access to be vulnerable with people, where you and I, like, we had it different. You know what I mean? I couldn't just go on Instagram and DM somebody that I know that was sober and be like, I think I have a problem.
Yeah.
Like I was taking this thing to the grave. I was like, honestly, that's what I would say. Like, realize that there are guys just as crazy as you, just as social as you, just as eccentric as you. And there's a reason that you and I are doing this podcast. It's not to hear each other speak, and it's not for how many likes we can get on a reel. It's for that person listening right now.
Yeah, 100%, man. That's good. Yeah, I know. I do remember that, like you said, that there wasn't a lot out there. That's like one of the main reasons I started Sober Guy back in 2014. I was 6 months sober. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I had a little music background, so I had some production experience. And so I hodgepodged a bunch of stuff together. And because I went and searched, man, well, what could I listen to? And there was some stuff, you know, Dr. Drew was out there, and I think there was an AA podcast, and I was going to meetings and stuff. But I wanted to open up this space, and I had hid stuff for so long. I was secretive about it for so long. And with respect to the rooms and all that, I also had a piece of me that wanted to share it with everybody. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Have everyone else share it so we could like open this space up and get people talking about it, and get people to also see, like you described earlier, it's not the homeless person on the street, you know, with the brown bag that, you know, that's the only person who suffers addiction. Man, there's such a wide variety of functioning people who struggle with this crap. It's everywhere, you know? So I really appreciate you coming on today. I appreciate the work you're doing. Your book, Dion, the Rock and Roll Philosopher, we'll have that link in the show notes. So it's super easy. If anyone is, just go in the show notes, click on it. Also, you can follow Adam at Adam Jablin on Instagram. I think, are you on X? Any other platforms you want to plug before?
I got the TikTok. Instagram is really my main one. Facebook. Yeah. I got to get on X. I got to start sharing some deep thoughts on there, you know?
I like X, man. I had it a long time ago, deleted it, then Elon bought it, and I got back on it. And so I've slowly been, kind of jumping on there. But man, it's so easy. X is one of those platforms. It's so easy just to get on there and scroll. And so I find myself, I'm like, I have to be really conscious of the time I'm spending, because it's a lot of up to date. It's kind of like Elon said, like, we're the news now. Like this, yeah. We're the new punk rock. We're the new counterculture, you know, the people, and we have that power in some of those spaces. And so people are definitely taking advantage of that, and posting all kinds of stuff on there, and updates, and doing their own reporting, and lots of good recovery stuff on there too, though, for sure.
I'll jump on, dude. I'll definitely jump on.
Yeah. Well, good stuff, man. I appreciate you again. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, Adam. It's been great.
My brother, it's a long time coming. I was happy to be here.
Absolutely, man. Thank you again. Hope something spoke to you today. Be sure to give Adam a follow at Adam Jablin. Check out his book, Dion, the Rock and Roll Philosopher. Share the podcast with a friend. Go to thatsoberguy.com for more resources. I appreciate you guys tuning in today. Keep your blood clean.